change. Tonight we pick up the mantle, we continue to work, working to restore your hope. I still believe in the power of us, and change is on the way.
Sometimes in life, no matter how many times you succeed and triumph, people will still underestimate you. Many times, this conundrum is magnified in high-stakes scenarios, i.e. elections, where if the whole world is against you, you're likely considered the underdog. When Ayanna Pressley sat down to prepare her game plan for Massachusetts' 7th Congressional District race in 2018, she was the underdog. She knew it was either go big or go home. In the biggest race of her professional career, the odds were completely stacked against her. To begin, her opponent, Michael Capuano, was a 20-year incumbent who represented the 7th Congressional District of Massachusetts since 1999. Another notable obstacle to note was that Capuano out-fundraised Pressley by nearly a 2-to-1 ratio. And from a political ideological standpoint, both candidates were essentially evenly matched. Capuano, much like Pressley, was a staunch progressive who backed policies such as Medicare for All and sanctuary cities before they were considered mainstream. Yet, despite the numerous disadvantages, Pressley made history. She became the first black woman from the state of Massachusetts to be elected to the United States Congress. Now then, how did she win?
Welcome back, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. So, how did Pressley manage to pull out that upset victory? Well, there are many paths we can consider here, but for today, we'll be focusing on 3 areas of interest so that we can further explore this question and become better informed political science researchers. Okay, so before we start talking about intersectionality, first, let's define what it means. Intersectionality is a black feminist-oriented term coined by Kimberly Crenshaw, which defines overlapping forms of discrimination from constructs like gender, race, and class. To simplify this a bit more, we can use the hypothetical of a woman searching for employment. In scenario A, she goes ahead and applies for a job at her local bakery. The problem is that bakery discriminates against women. And in scenario B, she applies for a job at a candy store. But unfortunately, this employer discriminates against black people. And when combined, these acts of discrimination compound forms of oppression. This is intersectionality in a nutshell, and Pressley has exemplified how these intersectional dimensions carry significance in the political decision-making process. As a woman, Pressley has been a vocal leader in discussing the issues that women face in everyday life. Take a listen at a speech she delivered in 2013.
Before we can even begin to consider how women become political, let's first address the girl on the journey to womanhood. The girls I spend time with every day. The girl that exists inside all of us. The girl who is stunted in her development and empowerment because she lives in a world that all too often refuses to see her, to listen to her. The 18-year-old college freshman who wants to run for student government president, but instead settles for secretary. The 17-year-old girl who doesn't raise her hand in class. The openly gay 15-year-old girl who feels unsafe in her community and at school.
The following segment of this video discusses topics about sexual violence, so if you wish to skip this part, please do so. We're here to learn, but we're also here to take care of each other. As a former survivor, Pressley has been a fierce advocate for women and girls facing sexual oppression. As a child, she experienced sexual abuse, and as an adult, she later experienced sexual assault. And as a quick side note, if you wish to learn more about topics of gender and oppression, here are some scholars who have studied these issues extensively. Now, we need to be very careful that we did not glorify personal trauma. However, we must also recognize the bravery that it takes to share these experiences and use them to empower others. During her time as a member of the Boston City Council, Pressley spearheaded the City Council's Committee on Healthy Women, Families, and Communities, in an effort to reduce and prevent violence, trauma, and poverty that disproportionately impacts women and girls. She also formed the Elevate Boston Coalition to address issues affecting the LGBTQI community. And likewise, she has also backed comprehensive sex and health education curriculum for high schools in Boston. Now, we can't make any definitive conclusions, but in a year dubbed as the Pink Wave, under an administration that directly threatened the rights of women, and in a district where you have a high percentage of female voters, there certainly is the possibility that Pressley established herself as the most qualified candidate. Another area where Pressley capitalized on was her decision to rely heavily on social media. Jay Rosen describes the ways in which new media has disrupted conventional media in political messaging efforts. Simply stated, nowadays, printing presses compete with blogs, radio stations compete with podcasts, and television programming competes with homemade videos. And in 2018, while Capuano devoted the majority of his ad spending on local television, Pressley relied heavily on social media sites like Facebook and Twitter to target mobile users. Specifically, she ran ads that reached Latino communities, ads that discussed local economic disparities, and ads that catered to Asian and Haitian-speaking communities. And this proved to be monumental for Pressley, especially in a place like Boston, where 1/3 of its voters speak a language other than English. As a result, Pressley was able to mobilize a considerable number of first-time Hispanic and Asian voters, demographic groups that Capuano largely ignored during his tenure. Finally, Pressley won because she was herself. She talked about change and she symbolized change. Against all odds, Pressley managed to win, despite many pundits counting her out. Against all odds, Pressley managed to win, despite not being supported by the Black Caucus PAC, the late John Lewis, Emily's List, and the state governor. Against all odds, Pressley managed to be here, despite having grown up with her father incarcerated and later losing her mother to leukemia. Basically, every single time Pressley was faced with adversity, she punched adversity back in the mouth. And that, my friends, is the power of Pressley. We hope this video was educational, and if you want to empower women and help them overcome similar obstacles like we discussed in this video, please consider donating to the Women's Center of Greater Lansing. More information about them will be provided down in the description. Here at Adam, we've already committed to helping, so why not join us? I love you all, take care, and until next time.